When people think about selling their business, everybody seems to want the big number, the big multiple, that life-changing offer, the kind that makes your friends jealous and your ego puff way up. But here's the truth that most sellers learn too late. Big offers don't mean big paydays. If you don't know what actually hits your bank account when it's all said and done, that means after taxes, after fees, and after the fine print, you're really just chasing some fake headline. Let's talk about why real sellers don't get distracted by the number on top of the LOI, and why they focus on what's left when the smoke clears.
Meet your host, Ben Brickweg, CEO, attorney, M&A advisor, exit strategist, a husband and a dad, worked with more than 2,000 business owners across industries. Before we get rolling, let's get one thing straight. Just because your host, Ben Brickweg, is a licensed attorney, a FINRA-registered rep, and an M&A advisor, doesn't mean anything on this show is legal advice, financial advice, or investment advice. And it damn sure isn't tailored to your situation. If you're looking for that kind of help, and you better believe you should be, hire someone who has your back and knows what they're doing. Buckle up, Buttercup. Here we go.
So the lie of the big number is real. Let's say you get an $8 million offer, and then you start mentally spending it. You pick out the vacation house, pay off the mortgage, finally take that big hunting trip or round-the-world vacation that you know you've earned. But you've got to slow down and pump the brakes a little bit. The number that's showing on that LOI, that's not your number. That's the marketing copy or the bait. The only number that actually matters when you sell your business is what actually lands in your bank account after you pay your taxes, your transaction fees, your legal costs, any escrows, earnouts, and whatever's tied to that bullshit employment agreement that they always tend to bury later on in the closing documents. So that $8 million starts to look like half or maybe less. So you can't let this headline number distract you from what this is really about, and that's freedom. The most important thing you can do at this point is realize that the net is more important than the gross. And this is where amateurs get their ass kicked all the time, and where smart sellers take control. If you don't know what you need from your sale after tax, after debt, and after all the other bullshit, then you're not ready. And around here, we call this netting out. And you can't build your exit around a fantasy number. You build it around what you'll actually keep, because that's what funds the next chapter in your life. And that's what you're really after. So if you're chasing a $10 million offer that only nets you $2.5 million after taxes and seller notes and all the other earnout entanglements, that's not a win. What that really is it's like a leash with a lie attached to it. Know your number and then protect it. And way before you even get an offer, you need to have a team in place. And this is where I see so many sellers get blindsided. They get an LOI, and then and only then do they call their CPA. Usually the CPA who's been filing tax returns once a year and doesn't know jack shit about M&A. And suddenly they're asking this CPA, who's really just a tax form preparer, what'll I owe and can we structure this offer better? Will I have to work for the buyer? And all of these other financial type entanglement questions. But by now it's too late. You can't bring in your exit team after you sign an LOI. You need to build that team before you even get an LOI. And so when we help clients in the exit strategy process, we bring in the right people at the right time, which is usually ahead of time. We bring in folks like fractional CFOs who model deal scenarios for you. We bring in tax strategists who just innately understand how to preserve your wealth. We bring in wealth managers then who can run the post-sale planning and take that preserved wealth and apply it to your lifestyle. And we hear regularly from sellers like, oh, I've got people I trust, I've got a financial planner. But the worst part is most of the time these financial planners have offices in strip malls. If they're great, if they're good, if they're okay, we'll work with them. But most of the time you already know that these guys aren't built for this, and you've just been afraid to make the move. And you only get one shot to make this right. It's not time for staying with my guy because he helped me with taxes for the last 10 years, or he did my PPP loan. You need to have killers in your corner that understand this process in and out. And once you have that team in place, the structure is really what's going to matter. So we mentioned an $8 million example earlier, and it looks nice on the top of that LOI, or what this $8 million can look like is something like $2 million in cash at close. But then there's a $3 million earnout tied to the performance of the business that happens after closing that you really can't control. And there's a $2 million seller carry note that disappears if the buyer tanks the deal. And then they'll sweeten it up with another $1 million in equity and sprinkled on top in their company that comes with so many restrictions and entanglements in the operating agreement that you'd probably never see liquidity from it. So what we see here, it's not $8 million, but it's a pitch deck of them selling you on a dream that they've got dressed up as a paycheck. And the reality here is if you don't net what you need, and if you don't control what you're being measured on for the rest, you're becoming an employee in your business. You're working for someone else's exit at that point. And here's the big turning point where we see that smart sellers think differently about this. They don't brag about their LOI or the number on top, but they quietly look at the number that's in their bank account when the deal closes, and it closes clean. And by putting the right team together and having the right mindset, these smart sellers know their walkaway number. They've got models built for the tax hit. They know exactly how much they need to clear from the deal, to net from the deal, to fund the life that they actually want. They're smart enough to build their team long before any pitch decks go out, long before any NDAs are signed. And the biggest thing is they're smart enough to know to walk away from the deal if the deal structure starts getting fishy. So if you're not there yet, that's fine. That's what we help with. But understand this, the worst feeling in the world is looking back 2 years later after you sold the business and realizing you traded control of this asset that you spent years building for a fake payday, and seeing that you stayed on too long, you got locked in too tight, and you got paid too little, too late. So don't do that. And the takeaway here is don't chase the number, but instead chase the outcome. And if nothing else, don't wait until you have an offer in your hand to figure out what you actually want and what you actually need from your exit. And if you want some help reverse engineering your real number, that number that's after tax, after structure, after bullshit, we've got a process built for that. So for now, start by heading over to exitworthy.com/gifts and grab what we've got waiting for you. We've got guides, worksheets, books, all sorts of things. What matters most for you is to start looking at the right number before somebody sells you on the wrong one. You didn't build your business to brag about an LOI, you built it to walk away free. So let's make sure that actually happens.